David Weiss was born in Huden, Hungary in 1901. He was one of five brothers. When David graduated high school, he was the only one too young to be drafted in World War I. All his classmates went to war. His father, Abraham, was a captain in the Royal Hungarian Hussars, one of the only Jews to attain such a high rank. Hungary lost the war, and Huden was apportioned to Romania. An economic depression came to Eastern Europe. David and one of his brothers decided to leave for the United States. The immigration laws of the United States made it impossible for them to get in. Their idea was to go to Cuba and establish citizenship there, then emigrate to the United States. However, laws changed and immigration remained impossible. Stuck in Cuba, they made their new home in Matanzas. They were able to find good work fixing watches. From war-torn Europe to Cuba, David Weiss had a displaced life so far, much like my own. He returned to Hungary to marry his sweetheart Elena in 1936. Europe was unstable, and Elena had to sneak across the border to marry David. They left for the good life in Cuba right away. War ravaged the world again, but this time David was an ocean away. David and his family prospered along with Cuba. David and his brother opened a jewelry store, imported gold and gems from the United States, and sold plenty of beautiful pieces to wealthy Cubans. David and Elena welcomed a daughter, Miriam, and a son, my father, Harold. Eventually the war ended and Cuba fell into its own political trouble. My grandfather found fortune and success. He opened a jewelry factory and bought real estate. His children came of age in this prosperous time. The Cuban government began to descend into dictatorship. Rich people in Cuba did well, but corruption took its toll. David married off his daughter in grand style. He felt such pride and joy in her and what his family was able to accomplish from such humble beginnings. My father was accepted to the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
The story of Cuba and Fidel Castro, headliner throughout 1959. It began the first week of the year when Castro's revolution overthrew the Batista regime. 2.5 years after Castro landed with a small band of men in arms at a remote area of the island, he made good his pledge to free Cuba from dictatorship.
A year later, David Weiss was diagnosed with cancer. He had to travel to Boston to have surgery. My grandfather lost his arm to his cancer treatment and returned to a communist Cuba. He arranged for his family to get out. He could not prolong his own life. My grandfather passed away on March 20th, 1960. His children, having fled Cuba, never saw the headstone here, which marks his grave. This picture, taken in 2012, was the first they had seen it in 52 years. This scratch belt buckle, made of simple brass, is the only artifact I have to connect with my grandfather. It does not seem like much, but the initials, like the name, match mine. I have often thought about what it would have been like to sit down with him and just talk. I know he would love me and be proud of me.